Welcome back to Icons of Influence, the podcast where we dive into the lives of remarkable individuals who are using their platforms for something far bigger than themselves. I'm Hannah Halley, and today's episode is all about a man who has captivated audiences for decades, not just with his acting, but with his unwavering commitment to saving the planet, Leonardo DiCaprio. From being one of Hollywood's biggest movie stars to becoming a fierce advocate for climate action, DiCaprio has redefined what it means to use fame for good. Today, we'll take a look at his rise in Hollywood, the defining moments of his environmental activism, and how he's working to ensure a future for our planet. Let's dive in. Before Leonardo DiCaprio became one of the most recognizable faces in Hollywood, he was just a kid growing up in Los Angeles, raised by a single mother in a rough neighborhood. Born on November 11, 1974, Leonardo Wilhelm DiCaprio was an only child, and his parents divorced when he was still a baby. Despite their separation, both parents remained deeply involved in his life. His mother, Irmeline, worked multiple jobs to support him, while his father, George, a comic book artist and distributor, introduced him to the world of creativity from an early age. DiCaprio has spoken openly about growing up in an area surrounded by crime, drugs, and poverty. He saw firsthand how easy it was to fall into the wrong crowd. But he also knew that he wanted more. He wanted to escape the limitations of his environment and pursue something bigger. And for him, that something was acting. His passion for performing started early. As a child, he would imitate characters from movies and television, entertaining his family with over-the-top impressions. He later credited his parents for always encouraging his creativity and supporting his dreams. But getting into the industry wasn't easy. He struggled to land commercials as a child actor and faced constant rejection for not looking typical enough. Casting directors told him he was too quirky, too expressive, not conventionally handsome. But that didn't stop him. At 14 years old, he finally started booking roles, first in TV commercials, and then small guest spots in shows like Parenthood and Growing Pains. His charisma, natural talent, and ability to deliver emotionally complex performances at such a young age quickly set him apart. His big break came in 1993, when he was cast in This Boy's Life alongside Robert De Niro. This was the turning point. De Niro, one of the greatest actors of all time, personally selected DiCaprio for the role, seeing something special in the young actor. It was a tough role, playing an abused teenager in a dysfunctional family, but DiCaprio delivered a gritty, emotionally raw performance that earned him widespread acclaim. Later that same year, he starred in What's Eating Gilbert Grape as a young boy with an intellectual disability. The role was challenging, but DiCaprio threw himself into it with complete dedication, studying the mannerisms and behaviours of children with similar conditions. The result? A performance so believable that many people thought he actually had a disability in real life. At just 19 years old, he was nominated for his first Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, an incredible achievement for someone so young. It was clear that Hollywood had found its next big star. Then came Titanic. In 1997, James Cameron's epic love story took the world by storm, and Leonardo DiCaprio became a global sensation overnight. Playing Jack Dawson, a charming working-class artist who falls in love with Kate Winslet's Rose, he captured hearts worldwide. What's wild is that DiCaprio almost didn't take the role. He wasn't interested in a traditional romantic lead and didn't want to be typecast as a teen heartthrob. But Cameron saw something deeper in him and convinced him to take the part. And it changed everything. Titanic wasn't just a box office smash. It was a cultural phenomenon. It became the highest grossing film of all time at the time, and fans were obsessed with Leo. His face was everywhere. Magazines, posters, fan clubs. He had officially become the biggest movie star in the world. But here's where DiCaprio did something unexpected, something that truly set him apart. Instead of cashing in on his newfound stardom with easy mainstream blockbusters, he chose challenging artistic roles. He actively avoided being typecast as just a pretty boy leading man. Instead, he sought out projects that would test him as an actor. His next big move, Martin Scorsese. This was the start of one of the greatest actor-director partnerships in Hollywood history. DiCaprio teamed up with Scorsese for the first time in Gangs of New York, 2002, a historical epic that pushed him into a new level of dramatic depth. That partnership continued with The Aviator, The Departed, Shutter Island, and The Wolf of Wall Street. Each film showcased his range, intensity, and ability to disappear into characters. Then came films like Christopher Nolan's Inception, Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, each one proving that he wasn't just a movie star, but a once-in-a-generation actor. By the time he finally won his first Oscar in 2016 for The Revenant, he had already built one of the most respected and consistent careers in Hollywood. His name alone guaranteed box office success. But here's the thing. By this point, Leonardo DiCaprio's focus wasn't just on acting anymore. While the world was talking about his movies, he was talking about something else entirely: climate change. While most actors use their fame to promote their next film, DiCaprio was using his to fight for the planet. And that's where his true legacy started to take shape. For many Hollywood celebrities, activism is often limited to red carpet speeches and occasional donations. But for Leonardo DiCaprio, fighting for the planet isn't a side project. It's a full-time mission. Long before climate change became a mainstream concern, DiCaprio was already speaking out. His passion for environmental activism dates back to the late 1990s, when he was in his early 20s and just rising to global stardom. Instead of indulging in the traditional Hollywood lifestyle, he was dedicating himself to understanding the urgent environmental crises facing the planet. In 1998, at just 24 years old, he took a major step by launching the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation, LDF. Unlike many celebrity charities that focus on general philanthropy, the LDF was laser-focused on climate change, biodiversity, and wildlife conservation. His foundation quickly became a powerhouse, supporting projects in over 50 countries and funding efforts to combat deforestation, protect endangered species, and push for clean energy solutions. DiCaprio wasn't just writing checks. He was on the ground, meeting scientists, activists, and world leaders. He has visited melting ice caps in the Arctic, walked through burning rainforests, and stood alongside indigenous leaders fighting to protect their land. He has consistently used his platform to amplify the voices of experts and marginalized communities who are often ignored in climate discussions. And he didn't stop at personal activism. He brought environmental issues straight to the world's most powerful stages. In 2014, DiCaprio was invited to speak at the United Nations Climate Summit. This wasn't just any speech, this was a defining moment. Standing in front of world leaders, he delivered a powerful, urgent message. Climate change is real. It is happening right now. It is the most urgent threat facing our entire species, and we need to work collectively and stop procrastinating. That same year, the UN named him a United Nations Messenger of Peace for Climate Change, making him one of the world's most influential environmental advocates. His activism extended beyond speeches. In 2016, he produced the documentary Before the Flood, a groundbreaking film that took viewers on a global journey, exposing the devastating effects of climate change and highlighting potential solutions. The documentary featured interviews with world leaders like Barack Obama, Elon Musk, and Pope Francis, and it was streamed for free to millions worldwide, bringing environmental awareness to the mainstream like never before. Following that, he produced Ice on Fire, a 2019 documentary focused on cutting-edge solutions to climate change, showcasing technologies that could help reduce carbon emissions. These weren't just passion projects, they were wake-up calls to the world. And it's not just films. DiCaprio has been investing in real-world solutions. He has poured millions into funding renewable energy projects, marine conservation, and reforestation efforts. He is a major investor in Beyond Meat and other plant-based food companies, promoting sustainability in the food industry. He has also been a vocal critic of fossil fuels, frequently calling out major corporations and governments that continue to contribute to environmental destruction. He's been spotted at climate protests, standing alongside activists, not as a celebrity, but as a deeply committed environmentalist. In 2021, he played a major role in the Amazon Reforestation Fund, pledging $43 million to restore degraded land, protect indigenous territories, and support sustainable development in the Amazon rainforest. This wasn't just a donation, it was a strategic effort to reverse the damage caused by illegal deforestation and climate change. And in 2023, he made headlines again when he partnered with climate scientists to push for stronger global commitments at international climate summits. He consistently reminds people that while governments move slowly, change starts with individuals and industries willing to take action now. What sets Leonardo DiCaprio apart from other celebrity activists is his long-term commitment. This isn't a phase, it's been his life's work for over 25 years. He has leveraged his fame, his wealth, and his influence not for personal gain, but to fight for a planet in crisis. And in an industry often criticised for excess and waste, DiCaprio leads by example. He drives electric vehicles, flies commercially instead of on private jets whenever possible, and has committed to a plant-based diet to reduce his environmental footprint. When people ask, can one person really make a difference? DiCaprio is proof that the answer is yes. But as he often reminds us, time is running out. His message is clear. This isn't about politics, money, or fame. It's about survival. And the time to act is now. For many actors, Hollywood is the pinnacle, the ultimate achievement. But for Leonardo DiCaprio, acting has always been just one part of his larger purpose. Beyond the silver screen, he has built an empire of sustainable business ventures, strategic investments, and philanthropic projects that reflect his deep commitment to making the world a better place. He isn't just an actor, he's an entrepreneur, an environmental strategist, and a change maker. Let's dive into how DiCaprio is shaping his legacy beyond film. Let's start with his sustainable business ventures and investments. Unlike many celebrities who invest in luxury brands or nightlife ventures, DiCaprio's investments align with his core values: sustainability, innovation, and social good. One of his most well-known investments is in the plant-based food industry. In recent years, he has backed companies like Beyond Meat and Neat Burger, recognizing that reducing meat consumption is one of the biggest ways to combat climate change. He has spoken publicly about the environmental cost of industrial farming and how shifting to alternative proteins can reduce greenhouse gas emissions. But food isn't his only focus. He has also invested in clean energy startups, electric vehicles, and sustainable fashion brands that use ethical production methods. In 2021, he became an investor in Regeneration.vc, a venture capital firm funding businesses that prioritize sustainability and circular economy solutions. One of his most ambitious projects has been his partnership with Blackador Cay, a private island in Belize that he purchased with a vision to transform it into the world's first 100% eco-friendly luxury resort. Unlike traditional developments that exploit natural resources, DiCaprio's goal is to create a restorative island where tourism helps regenerate marine life and coastal ecosystems rather than depleting them. The resort, set to open in the coming years, is a model for how high-end travel can be both profitable and environmentally responsible. What makes these ventures so impactful is that they're not just financial opportunities. They're a reflection of his belief that business and sustainability must go hand in hand. He's proving that you don't have to choose between profit and the planet. You can build a future where both thrive. Next, let's take a quick look at Leonardo's philanthropy and humanitarian work. DiCaprio's philanthropy isn't just about writing checks, it's about creating systemic change. His Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation, LDF, has donated over $100 million to environmental causes, but his giving extends beyond climate action. In recent years, he has quietly supported disaster relief efforts, indigenous rights movements, and wildlife conservation projects worldwide. When the Australian wildfires devastated vast landscapes in 2020, DiCaprio's foundation donated $3 million to emergency response efforts, helping to protect wildlife and restore habitats. He has also been a strong supporter of Indigenous communities, recognising that they are often the frontline defenders of our planet's most fragile ecosystems. He has worked closely with Amazonian tribes, providing funding and advocacy to protect their land from illegal logging and industrial exploitation. One of his most high-profile humanitarian efforts was his involvement in the Ukraine crisis. In 2022, following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, DiCaprio reportedly donated $10 million to relief efforts, supporting refugees and humanitarian aid organisations. His ability to stay ahead of the curve is what makes his philanthropy so effective. While many celebrities react to crises, DiCaprio invests in long-term solutions, funding climate technology, reforestation projects, and renewable energy to address problems at their root. His goal isn't just to help, it's to transform entire systems. So what is Leonardo DiCaprio's legacy beyond acting? At 49 years old, Leonardo DiCaprio has already achieved what most could only dream of. He has won an Academy Award, starred in some of the biggest films of all time, and built a career that spans decades. But when we look back in history, he won't just be remembered as an actor, he'll be remembered as one of the most influential activists and changemakers of our time. His legacy goes beyond cinema. He has inspired millions to take action on climate change, rethink their consumption habits, and push for policies that protect our planet. He has set a new standard for what it means to be a celebrity, one that isn't defined by wealth and fame but by impact and responsibility. Leonardo DiCaprio isn't just an activist behind closed doors. He is one of the most effective celebrity advocates of our time because he understands the power of influence and he knows how to use it. For many celebrities, activism is a side project, something they do occasionally. But for DiCaprio, it is integrated into everything he does. His career, his business ventures, his social media, and even his Oscar acceptance speech. Every opportunity he has in the spotlight, he uses to push for change. So, let's break down exactly how he uses his fame to make a difference and why he has been so successful at it. 1. He uses Hollywood as a platform for change. In 2016, the world watched as Leonardo DiCaprio finally won his long-awaited Oscar for The Revenant. But instead of making it about himself, he used his speech to talk about climate change. He said, "Climate change is real. It is happening right now. It is the most urgent threat facing our entire species, and we need to work collectively together and stop procrastinating." That speech was broadcast to tens of millions of people worldwide, and that moment became one of the most watched, most shared environmental advocacy messages of all time. That wasn't a one-off event. Over the years, DiCaprio has strategically used film festivals, interviews, award shows, and public appearances to bring attention to environmental and social issues. At the United Nations, he has given speeches urging world leaders to take climate action seriously. At the World Economic Forum, he directly called out corporations and governments for their role in deforestation and pollution. He isn't afraid to speak truth to power, and because he is one of the biggest stars in the world, people listen. 2. He uses social media like a megaphone for activism. DiCaprio also understands the power of social media. He doesn't use Instagram to post about his personal life. He uses it exclusively for advocacy. With over 60 million followers, his platform is one of the most influential in the world. He shares breaking environmental news, promotes organizations doing critical work, and educates people on solutions. And here's what makes his social media presence so unique. He isn't just raising awareness, he's driving action. In 2019, the Amazon rainforest was burning at record levels. Governments were slow to respond, but DiCaprio used his platform to mobilize global attention. His posts reached millions, pressuring leaders to intervene. At the same time, his foundation donated $5 million in emergency funding to help fight the fires. The result? Governments, media outlets, and citizens worldwide stepped up. The fires became a global priority, largely because DiCaprio turned up the pressure. It's a masterclass in using influence, combining social media, philanthropy, and direct action to get real results. 3. His strategic collaborations and global partnerships. Another reason DiCaprio has been so effective. He doesn't try to do it all alone. He partners with scientists, activists, NGOs, and world leaders to amplify the right voices. He works alongside experts at the World Wildlife Fund, Conservation International, and the Natural Resources Defense Council, ensuring that his advocacy is always backed by science and strategy. He has also collaborated with former US President Barack Obama, Pope Francis, and the United Nations on climate action. When world leaders need a high-profile ally to push environmental policies, they call on DiCaprio. He even takes his activism into Hollywood itself. He has worked with Netflix, National Geographic, and HBO to produce documentaries that educate millions. His films like Before the Flood, Ice on Fire, and Sea of Shadows bring climate science to mainstream audiences in a way that politicians and scientists often struggle to do. 4. He changes culture. The measure of influence isn't just how many people hear your message, it's how many people change their behavior because of it. DiCaprio's relentless campaigning has helped shift public attitudes toward climate action. He has inspired millions of people to rethink their choices, whether it's switching to plant-based diets, supporting sustainable brands, or pushing for policy change. Perhaps the biggest sign of his impact is that other celebrities have followed his lead. More and more actors, musicians, and influencers now use their platforms for activism because DiCaprio has set the standard. He has redefined what it means to be a celebrity in the modern era. So, what is Leonardo DiCaprio's true legacy? Leonardo DiCaprio's journey is proof that influence isn't just about being famous, it's about what you do with that fame. He has redefined what it means to be a public figure, showing that celebrity and activism can go hand in hand. From Hollywood to the United Nations, from social media to frontline conservation efforts, DiCaprio has used every tool at his disposal to fight for a better planet. His impact is global, and his legacy will stretch far beyond the big screen. So here's the question: how can we use our own platforms, no matter how big or small, to create positive change? Because if there's one thing we can learn from Leonardo DiCaprio, it's that using your voice matters. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this story. Let's keep these important conversations going. Thanks for listening to Icons of Influence. I'm Hannah Halley, and I'll see you next time.